This is a pretty long video, but I'll probably speed it up to like 6 or 8 times. So instead of it being an hour long, it'll be like a few minutes, except for my talking parts. If I speed those up, you don't want to hear that. Well, hey YouTube, it's Brandon from VK Milling and Hardwoods here in Southeast Tennessee, and right now it's overcast and it's been kind of drizzling and raining all morning. The heat wave has finally broken. It's October the 7th, and up until yesterday, we broke record high temperatures every single day for the month of October, and I believe at the end of September there we actually broke some record highs as well. Being in the mid to high 90s, especially the first week of October here, is just ridiculous, and it has been. So I had the mill in the shop in here this week, and I recorded a video series. One series is just general maintenance items, things that you have to take care of on the mill and how to do those. The other series is a complete alignment procedure from start to finish on the entire mill. And I will try to have that out to you as soon as I can. I'm editing it now, but there's going to be a delay in it, and the reason for the delay is something I can finally talk about. I've received a deposit check and the contract for a milling job that was very important to me. I really wanted to be involved in this milling project. I even took a cut to my rates in order to be involved in this project. And so, yeah, I'm very happy. And the only downside to this project that I'm about to go do is that I have to leave here Wednesday morning, day after tomorrow, at about 6 o'clock in the morning with the mill and all the equipment and everything, and drive to the middle of nowhere in Alabama. Hands down, this is going to be the most remote job that I have done so far. It is up on a mountain in the back of Beyond. There's a road that's cut in, and I've been there. I've driven on that road with someone else. There may be some places on this road where I might have to actually stop and cut the road just a bit wider to be able to get the truck and the mill in there. I really hope that I don't have to do that, but it's going to be tough. So, to tell you about the job, one of the many tribes that was forcefully relocated during the Trail of Tears was the Muskogee tribe of Indians from central Alabama. And they were removed and taken to, I believe, Oklahoma and the surrounding areas. In recent years, there's been a push by members of the Muskogee tribe to migrate back to central Alabama, to their homeland. In so doing, a large group of the Muskogee have purchased a large quantity of land in central Alabama. And they are turning this into an off-grid living community for the Muskogee tribe of people. And they're doing some amazing things down there. I've been to the property, as I mentioned, and I love what it is they're doing. They've initiated some conservation efforts. They're doing what they can to live off grid, and it's. I'm extremely happy that I'm going to be a part of what's going on down there. So they've got a bunch of different projects going on. They have started importing, I believe it's sturgeon from Canada, and reintroducing that sturgeon, which was killed off by the damming of the rivers and the lakes. They've been reintroducing that. They have a hatchery there, so they're bringing in the sturgeon. They're hatching new sturgeon, young fish, and reintroducing those into the waterways there. That's fantastic. They've brought in a herd of woodland bison and will be raising those bison there on the property. They have cleared, I would easily say, several acres of one of the sides of the hills, and they are going to be covering that hill with solar panels to provide the electricity for the hatchery, incubators, for some of the buildings, etc. And that's totally cool. They've got a list of other things that they're doing, and I'll try, if I can, if they'll allow me to, do some filming of the projects that we're working on there. And hopefully, maybe, I don't know for certain, but maybe I'll be able to interview their chief or their, I guess, their spiritual leader. I don't know. I can't guarantee that, but we'll see. I'll try. What I'm going to be involved in is a project where on top of one of these hills, there's an area of ground that they have sanctified, made sacred. And they're building two buildings up there. One is a community center for events and things of that nature. And then right next to that, they're actually building a ceremonial building. And that ceremonial building will be 100% timber framed structure. They have enlisted the services of the Timber Framers Guild of America. And they have contracted me to go down to that property and utilize the timber that has been harvested from the surrounding hillsides and mill that timber into everything that they're going to need to frame and build out the ceremonial structure for their community. And I am like super excited, not just because I get to work with the Timber Framers Guild of America and their contractor Trillium Dell, but because this is their ceremonial structure. I'm going to mill the timber that is going to go into building a structure for them to have ceremonies in that's going to last centuries. And so I'm leaving in 2 days, a day and a half really. And I'm going to Alabama, and I'm going to be there for however long it takes to mill every piece of timber that needs to be milled. I know that into the structure, there are going to be over 200 pieces of material that need to be milled. And then ancillary stuff, we're going to have to sort through a lot of logs. We're going to have to pick and choose which ones, are used for what. There's going to be a lot of sorting going on. Some of it's going to be S4S, so square 4 sides. Some of it's going to be square 3 sides. Some of it's going to be square 2 sides. And by that, I mean 2 parallel sides and 2 rounded sides. Everything has to be anchor sealed and then stacked. And yeah, so I'm super excited. There's gonna be a lot of work involved. I'm gonna be away from my family for 4 or 5 days. We'll see. I'm hoping we can get it done in 2 or 3 days, but I can't guarantee that. It might be 4 or 5. The weather, you know, it's October. That starts the rainy season for the Southeast, hurricane season in the Gulf. And so, yeah. We're going to have weather to contend with. I looked at the weather report, and for that area of Alabama, it looks like we're going to get a little bit of rain at the end of this week, but not a lot. But then starting at the end of the weekend, like Sunday, Monday, it's going to start raining like every single day for the next 10 days. And this all has to be done before October 31st. So it might be that I go down there, set up the mill, we mill for a day or two, and then we get rained out and aren't able to do anything for 3, 4, 5, 6 days. I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. But it's got to get done, and I can't take the chance on waiting until the end of October to go down there and do it. Because if it rains, then we're going to miss our deadline, and this is just a deadline I cannot miss. Starting November the 1st, there will be a group of members of the Timber Framers Guild of America, as well as I believe 40 or 50 volunteers that will be coming in and erecting this timber frame structure. And they're going to start on November the 1st. They're going to end on November the 10th. So they have 10 days to get this entire structure built. And that means that everything has to be cut perfectly. They don't have the time to mess around and try to trim things down and plane things and do all that stuff. They'll cut it to length and they'll put it in place. Awesome. So that's the update. That's what I'm doing. So the second part that I wanted to talk about and that I'm going to show in this video is my packing list for going down to Alabama. Now this is going to be, you know, from my shop close to 4 hours away. Now, that said, could get there in 3 hours just driving the truck, but given that I'm going to be hauling the mill, all the equipment, everything else, it just slows everything down. And so I'm assuming it's going to be about 4.5 hours, which means that I need to be able to take everything with me that I need. This is way out in the back and beyond. The nearest town is maybe 20-something minutes away, and it's not a very big town. It's relatively small. And so if there's something that I need, I may or may not be able to even get it down there without having to travel, you know, to a major city like Birmingham or Montgomery or something like that. So, to that end, I have created a checklist. And this checklist has pretty much everything on it that I would normally take on a milling job, plus things that I would need that I can't rush back to the shop and pick up. So a lot of the milling jobs that I go out on here, I take pretty much everything that I need, minus a few things here and there. Some stuff I'll leave here at the shop because if I direly need that particular thing to do something, then usually I can run back to the shop, get it, and go back. Or it's something that's usually readily available at an auto parts store or an Ace Hardware or a Walmart, you know, that kind of stuff. But in this instance, I just really don't have that option. So I created a checklist. I spent several days just going through everything that I have in here, thinking about everything that I might need. If I've got to align the mill for some reason, if I have to repair the mill for some reason, if I have to move logs, buck logs, you name it. Anything I might need, plus extras. And so I created this 2-page checklist here, and I'll just kind of generally go over some of the items on it, and then I'm going to actually start packing. I'm going to do a layout over here on the floor using this table and the floor space, lay everything out, make sure, check it off as I go through on the list, and pack it up and get ready to go. So, my off-site packing checklist. First, foremost, probably the most important things other than the mill itself, blades. I'm taking 7-degree and 4-degree blades with me. I have a fresh box of 7-degree blades, a 7-degree blade that's on the mill right now, and then I'll have a full box of 4-degree blades to go with me as well. I don't expect that I'll have to use the 4-degree blades, but I'll have them just in case. Then I have lubricants, so Pine Sol, dish soap, lithium grease for greasing up all the grease points on the mill, penetrating fluid for getting in and breaking nuts and bolts loose if necessary, as well as silicone spray to just help make things glide a little bit better. WD-40, automatic transmission fluid, which is what is used to lube the mast of the mill, the mast chain and gears, as well as the drive chain and gears. Engine oil, in case for one reason or another there's an oil leak or I'm burning oil, you name it. Water, non-potable water. If you're not familiar with that phrase, potable means drinkable. It's water that you can drink. Non-potable means water you cannot drink. So I have 2 6-gallon containers that will be filled with water to be used for the mill, for lubricant. The reason it's non-potable is those containers aren't necessarily food safe. There will be dirt and debris that gets into them. There will be soap and other detergents and things like that that can get into that water. So you don't want to be ingesting that at all. And then dielectric grease, that's for greasing the electronics on the mill. Then we have replacement parts, an extra drive belt, 2 extra wheel belts, 4 new bearings for the blade guide rollers, optionally an oil filter, optionally an air filter. I just changed the oil and I just changed the air filter. They're good to go, so I'm not going to take those with me. Those are also readily available at any auto parts store. The spare tire that I have for the mill itself, and then I have a package of assorted nuts and bolts and set screws that I keep with the toolbox. Tools. I'm going to take my axe, a hatchet, a machete, 3 different socket sets. I have a standard, just regular socket set that's metric and SAE. Then I have a specialty socket set that is really Allen wrenches, star drive, 2 4-foot levels. That's not just to get the mill level when I do the setup, but if I have to adjust the side supports because they're out of, let's say they get moved out of being perfectly right angled to the bed rails, then I can use those as my parallels for my speed square to get those back into place. And then of course my cant hook for being able to roll logs. So then we come to power tools. So battery operated power tools. Now you might say, why would you take this stuff? I try to be prepared for any and all instances of screw ups or anything that, might go wrong. So I take a drill, an impact drill, an angle grinder, and a reciprocating saw. Why might I take those, you ask? I have been in instances where I'm sawing into a log, either a blade snaps or something goes wrong, the saw head moves, or the log wasn't perfectly clamped into place, and the log moves and it ends up twisting or otherwise trapping the blade in there, and I can't get it out. I can't rotate the blade to pull it out. I can't do anything. The only option that I have at that point is just cut the blade. And so I have an angle grinder with cutoff wheels for cutting the blade if necessary. And the recip saw actually works really good for just trimming off nubs of branches and things like that. I generally hope that I don't have to use it, but it does. It works. It does well for that. So then I'm going to take batteries for those tools. I've got a multi-battery charger that's going with me. I'm going to take an assortment of bit sets for the drill and the impact, for removing screws and that kind of stuff. Assorted wire brushes that go in the drills for cleaning things. Assorted blades for the recip saw, and cutoff wheels. Then my chainsaws. I have two chainsaws. I have the smaller Ryobi chainsaw. It's really light. It's very good. I can wield it like a sword, but it's very good for just delimbing. I can just run down a log. I can trim off ends, you name it. So I've got 2 bars that's going with that and 5 chains. And then my Husqvarna 455, that'll be going with me as well. That's my heavier duty saw, so if I have to actually cut logs, the Ryobi works and it can do that, but it's a thin kerf bar and a thin chain. They bend really, really easily, and so if you're using it for that, not only is it much slower because it's a 37cc saw and has a shorter bar on it, but you can get wandering cuts much, much easier. The Husqvarna, thicker bar, thicker chains, and it can just plow right through this stuff. So I have 2 bars for the Husqvarna and 5 chains, rephrase, 2 bars for the Husqvarna and then 5 standard cross-cut chains, as well as 2 rip chains. If you don't know the difference between a cross-cut chain and a rip chain, it's all in the angle of the cutting face of the tooth. A cross-cut chain is less aggressive, so you might have, let's say, a 35-degree angle on the tooth. A rip chain is much more aggressive, and it might have like a 10-degree angle on the tooth face. Power tools continued. For the chainsaws, sharpening kit. So I have a roll-up kit that contains all the files, some file guides, bar cleaner, etc. Scrunch, a carburetor adjuster for the Husqvarna. There are 2 jet screws to adjust both the idle and the high side. And I just have a long screwdriver that I ground down so that it fits in that slot. Fuel mix, so I run 50-to-1 fuel mix with 100% non-ethanol gas for the chainsaws. So I have a couple of bottles of fuel mix that'll go with me. A fuel container, I have a 2-gallon fuel container for those. And then 1 gallon of bar and chain oil. Hopefully that's all I need. And then safety gear. So helmet with visor and ear protection. My chainsaw chaps, steel-toed work boots, which I'm wearing right now. First aid kit, very important. Always, always, always have a first aid kit with you. Safety glasses, a couple of pair of those. Ear protection, a couple of sets of those. Gloves, I have some heavy leather gloves, some heavy cloth gloves, and then just some standard try to keep crap off of my hands gloves. 2 cans of wasp and hornet spray. Cannot recommend that enough. Depending on where you live, if you're up north and you don't have to deal with wasps and hornets all that often, great. Down here in the south, man, they're everywhere. I've gone through, there's some jobs where I've gone through 3 and 4 cans of wasp and hornet spray because of wasp nets, dirt daubers, yellow jackets, you name it. So yeah, I carry 2 full cans at all times. Bug spray, sunscreen, and I have a 12x12 canopy that on here I've got it listed as optional. I'll probably take it with me. It's good to just be able to set that up, put a chair underneath it, set my tools underneath it. It protects it from rain and weather and that kind of stuff, and gives me a nice cool place to sit down out of the sun. And if it starts raining, someplace that I can go sit that's not inside of the truck. General supplies, fuel for the sawmill, 100% non-ethanol gas. So I'll be taking 15 gallons. I have 2 5-gallon containers, and then what goes into the sawmill itself. The sawmill takes less than 5 gallons, but the 2 5-gallon containers I have actually take more than 5 gallons each. Some ratchet straps, wheel chocks, and supports. The wheel chocks are for the sawmill, so when I'm getting it set up, if I'm not necessarily on level ground, once I unhook it from the back of the truck, sometimes it wants to roll, so I can chock the wheels, keep it from rolling, and then start working on getting it level. Those also function as supports for underneath the outriggers, so I can use those to prop up outriggers and give them a place to set up. Snow shovel for scooping sawdust out of the way, an iron rake for raking bark, debris, sawdust, you name it, that kind of stuff out of the way. 2 log chains at 25 feet in case I have to skid a log or anything like that. Log tongs that I can use in conjunction with the chains. A gallon of anchor seal. Some paint brushes to apply the anchor seal, funnel for oil and fluids, a roll of duct tape, a camp chair, 50 feet of assorted ropes, zip ties for blades and, zip tying anything that I might have to zip tie up, and a couple of rolls of shop towels. Then I'll have my camera equipment, so the GoPro, batteries, charger, mounting adapters, SD cards, carrying case, tripods. So I have the tripod that is sitting on right now, which is my large tripod. It extends up to 6 feet. Then I have a couple of small Moby style, and then selfie stick. For sound capture, I've got a shotgun mic and my lav mics. And then general electronics, laptop with charger, a mouse, phone charger, tablet, and a secondary phone. The reason I'm taking a secondary phone is we recently changed carriers, and I found when I was there the last time that my new carrier has no service on top of that mountain. However, my old carrier does. So since I upgraded my phone, and I now have a phone from my old carrier and my current phone, I can take that old phone, activate it on a prepaid, and I'll use that while I'm there. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the stuff that I'm taking. That just is shop stuff. That doesn't include clothing and food and everything else. So it sounds like a lot, it is a lot, but once I actually start packing all this stuff up, it'll condense down nicely and it won't be that much. So I'm gonna get to packing and shoot a little bit of footage of that so you can end up seeing everything that I'm taking with me. And then I'm gonna back the truck up, clean out the bed of the truck, and do a test fit and just try to fit everything in there and see if it's all going to fit in, which it should. If it doesn't, well, then we'll have to figure something out. But yeah, so I'm going to get to work. So yeah, if you go down the list, it looks like or sounds like a huge amount of stuff that I'm taking with me. But when you actually see it laid out, and I'll take the camera over there and you can see it all, it really isn't that incredible amount of stuff. You know, certain things are a little bit larger, like the boxes of blades, my rolling tool chest that most of those tools will actually go into. I do need to stop on the way home and get a gallon of motor oil. I thought I had one sitting over there, but it actually turned out to be antifreeze. So that's how the cookie crumbles. There's a couple of small little things that I'm going to toss in there. They're not requirements, but like my spray bottle with soapy water in it, I'm going to throw that in there. Just so I can have it on hand, just to help clean sap and just detritus from sticking to stuff. Little stuff like that. Of course, my water bottle. I've got a new water bottle. It's in the truck right now. It holds 3/4 of a gallon of water, and it keeps it cool for like 3 days. That's awesome. I don't generally expect to have to go through more than about 3/4 to a gallon of drinking water per day. If I am, wow. Of course, you know, coffee and all of my personal stuff I'll pack up and take that with me separately. But yeah, so let me take you through real quick and show you all this stuff. And we can go from there. So first up, I have, there's a box of 4-degree blades. There's a box of 7-degree blades. It's a fresh box of 10 sitting there. Over here, we've got the Ryobi chainsaw. The chains are in the container, extra bar. We've got the Husqvarna chainsaw. Extra chains are in there. The saw, the chain sharpening kit is in there in that orange roll, extra bar. We've got our helmet with visor and ear protection. We've got our chaps down there. The one thing that I added in, that is a saw vise. It clamps to like a workbench or something like that, and then opens up, and you can clamp a saw bar in there to sharpen chains with. It makes it a lot easier rather than like a stump vise. I can just clamp that onto the bed of or the tailgate of my truck and sharpen all of my chains at one time. We've got grease gun. We've got a brand new gallon of anchor seal and 2 brushes to apply it with, chalk blocks, chain there in the background, spare tire. I'm going to check the pressure in that in a little bit. My 6-port battery charger for my Ryobi batteries. I wanted to do a tool review on that, but I never did. It's a great charger. It has USB ports on the front of it as well, so you can charge a USB device. The one problem I have with that charger is it charges in sequence. It will not charge all of the batteries at the same time. It will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then done. So if you're looking for rapid charging, over on the wall there, I still actually have 3 chargers mounted to the wall, so I can charge 3 batteries at the same time using those, and then additional battery or batteries in there. So the 2 blue 6-gallon containers are for the non-potable water. The 2-gallon gas can is for chainsaw mix. The 2 5-gallon cans that I have sitting here, both different styles, that's for 100% gas for the sawmill. I've got a container of hydraulic fluid, transmission fluid, a gallon of bar and chain oil. This is actually, 1 US gallon bar and chain oil. There we go. Pro tip, one of the things that I like to do rather than have one of these gallon containers and rather than spending money on one of those fancy, gas/oil pour containers is I took an old Dawn dish detergent bottle, and that's what I fill up with my bar and chain oil. And then when I need to fill up the chainsaw, I just flip that open. It's got a spout. I just squeeze what I need in there. I have yet to spill a single drop of bar and chain oil since using this. Back here in the back, we've got dish soap in this container, and we've got Pine Sol in this container. I find that it's much easier, these are 1 gallon containers, it is much easier to keep up with a 1 gallon container than it is to try to keep up with 5 or 6 bottles of, $1 Pine Sol, or try to keep up with, 2 or 3, third of a gallon soap containers. So I just put it in there and go with it. Pack of zip ties, first aid kit, sunblock, WD-40, some, what do you call this? Silicone spray lube, some penetrating fluid. There's the dielectric grease. I've got my log scale stick and the Doyle rule, wasp and hornet spray back there, lithium grease, a couple of rolls of shop towels, drill bits, saw blades for the recip, some Goo Gone, some 50-to-1 oil mix for the chainsaws, 100-foot tape, my regular measuring tapes and the engineer tape, scrapers, assorted tools and wrenches, hammers, square, more squares, all of the socket sets, 2 pairs of hearing protection, a hatchet. I've got a 1-foot laser level there that works great for a lot of stuff when I'm out working. Drill, impact driver, duct tape, assorted sets of wire brushes, cutoff wheels, and grinding wheels for the for the angle grinder, and some brushes that go into the drill. Of course, the angle grinder, recip saw, duct tape, some clamps, because you never know when you need to clamp something. All of my wedges I have sitting here, and if you remember, I mentioned, so this is called a felling wedge. Right? It's much thinner profile, and it's used for helping to fell trees or cut logs that might be laying at an angle. Whereas this is a splitting wedge. Much sturdier. You're going to hit those with like a splitting maul or a sledgehammer. These are used to break open stumps and logs for splitting firewood. Let's see, what else do we have here? The chocks I mentioned before. Over here on this side, we have the iron rake, 4-foot level, snow shovel, my axe, can't hook. I tested the axe to make sure that it's still sharp, and if it shaves the hair off of your arm, it'll cut wood. Of that, I can assure you. And I did shave some hair off of my hand here. So, got that covered. I've got my spare drive belt there, and underneath most of that stuff sitting there, you'll see the 2 wheel belts. Those are spares as well. And gloves. I can't think of what else. So I've got one more chain that's around back right now. I'm going to bring that in, and my log tongs, they're around back connected to the chain, so I'm going to bring those in. I'm going to mix up some 50-to-1 for the chainsaws, and then on my way out, I will fill up these 2 5-gallon containers with 100% gas, as well as fill up the mill. I'm going to empty the chainsaws out. They shouldn't have any gas in them right now, but you never know. I might have left a little bit in there. I'm going to empty those out, and I'll refill them once I get down there and I start using them. So yeah, that's really about it. Beyond that, you just have to take the mill with you. That's my packing list, and I know this is a pretty long video, but I'll probably speed it up to like 6 or 8 times. So instead of it being an hour long, it'll be like a few minutes, except for my talking parts. If I speed those up, You don't want to hear that.